It started with a writer and a submarine commander known as Doug the Thug.
The name Tom Clancy brings a vision of the realism element. It brings the link to movies and books that are pretty much common to a large population.
He was very much a decision maker. His history in the British Navy, and this is the direction we're going to go, and this is it.
They mixed the real world with the virtual one.
Alpha, go.
It was something that I hadn't seen anybody really do that well before or do at all. So it was a military shooter, but based on realism.
Man down! Need some backup now!
And jump-started a whole new genre of gaming.
Among first-person shooters, which tended to be set on alien worlds or in haunted houses or in crazy dungeons, this game was set in the real world. You were fighting real enemies that real people can expect to face.
It wasn't always easy.
Working on Rainbow Six definitely is one of the war stories of the company.
Yet they created one of the most respected and successful franchises ever.
When Rainbow Six became popular, I told my wife that it was lightning in a bottle, but it was a lie, because lightning in a bottle only happens once.
Gear up and get ready for the story behind Red Storm Entertainment.
Am I safe now?
Escorting hostage.
In 1985, a rising author named Tom Clancy consults with a British officer named Doug Littlejohns for a military thriller novel titled Red Storm Rising.
Doug Littlejohns is a former British subcommander, so he knew some of the real activities. Whether he shared them or not, I'm sure that's all secret, but there was a friendship formed there.
10 years later, Clancy is a household name with plenty of best-selling novels under his belt. He teams with Virtus Corporations and Simon & Schuster to release a PC game based on his novel, Tom Clancy's SSN. And once again, Littlejohns lends a hand.
Doug was one of the people involved with helping to provide authenticity to the SSN submarine game.
While advising for the game, Littlejohns suggests that if Clancy really wants to get into gaming, he should set up his own game company. Meanwhile, Steve Reed, one of the developers for Tom Clancy's SSN, is thinking along the same lines.
We saw the potential to have Clancy brought into the gaming community. He was interested. He helped found and back the company that was partially named after one of his books. So there was that heavy interest to work with Tom, and I think that was pretty much the key to getting me join the second company when it was formed, which I was one of the original founding members.
In November 1996, Red Storm Entertainment is founded as a joint venture between Virtus and Tom Clancy. Doug Littlejohns is brought in as CEO.
People were really enthusiastic, certainly around the industry, when Clancy announced a title, only because his properties are so strong. He's probably the most popular fiction writer, certainly among men, easily. The thought of those properties and those characters, Jack Ryan, etc., being translated to computer was very exciting. So yeah, when they were announced, there was a big buzz.
Certainly, Tom didn't want to run the company himself. So there's a person with a good background, understanding military products.
I always thought it was cool that he was a commander of a submarine and all that stuff, so he had a military grounding, which was kind of neat.
He was very much a decision maker. His history in the British Navy, he was definitely one of, this is the direction we're going to go, and this is it. We're headed that way.
I was going into a military-style company, and he kind of had that military career working for him in the background, so there was that realism aspect that went along with that.
Be aware you have Tango flight ahead of you. Roger that. This should be off by now, right?
And I think at the beginning of Red Storm, that was definitely what we needed. Because of our lack of experiences, we just needed someone there who was going to make sure that they provided that very assertive direction that the company was moving toward.
It seemed to have a natural fit to have someone who has the military background, some business savvy, and a friendship with Mr. Clancy to provide a foundation for this new company.
He is involved. I don't think he watches over things day to day.
He had a lot of ideas on how things should work, but kind of let us run with it the way that we wanted to run with things.
They'll have new ideas, they'll take them to him, and he'll either green light them or he'll say, no, that won't work.
And the Clancy name itself will become a franchise. In 1997, Red Storm releases their first game, Politica. The game is released in conjunction with the book of the same name.
The name Tom Clancy brings a vision of the realism element. It brings the link to movies and books that are pretty much common to a large population.
Although met with mediocre reviews, Politica generates $2 million in revenue for the company.
There's a word of mouth that it's not too far before you bump into someone who's either passionately read all of his books or seen all of the movies. And so in name alone, that allowed us pretty nice limelight to start off a company. As we know, when you're dealing with games, the proof is actually in the product. So the name doesn't provide victory, it just provides a nice sense of attention.
Under fire. In position.
What Red Storm has planned next for the Clancy name will change the face of first-person shooters forever.
Bravo, go! Man down, man down! Threat neutralized. In position.
With their first game, Politica, behind them, Red Storm Entertainment focuses on something completely different. A first-person shooter called Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six.
Working on Rainbow Six definitely is one of the war stories of the company. It's easy to see that when you're starting out as a small independent company that there is a make-or-break sense of, you know, you have to have a strong product. We were really trying to establish a brand, and, you know, that's a huge hurdle for a new young company.
It was first announced on our cover, PC Gamer cover, as a bit of a surprise. People were sort of, you know, looking at us askance, like, you know, why is this game here? And we thought we were taking a bit of a flyer on that one. We'd seen the game, and we knew it was wonderful. But no one else really knew what it was or what it was about. So when we put it on our cover, that's considered in our office one of the biggest gambles we ever took.
As development starts, Clancy makes a critical call. It must have a heavy focus on realism.
Well, it imposed difficulties, but I wouldn't say that's the reason why the game would be difficult. You have to try to portray the game as realistically as possible. You have to stay true to what the fans feel are realistic, and sometimes those are two very different things.
To ensure that the game gets the day-to-day operations of counter-terrorist teams right, Clancy meets with the development team regularly.
He came down several times for Rainbow Six, and we had several meetings with him where he critiqued some of the story and talked a lot about plot and the main premise for the team.
Kind of long line this way, facing me. Long line.
He hooked us up with a lot of good advisors, some ex-Special Forces operatives and people like that were able to help us get the correct feel for the game.
Okay, where are you going? You look confused.
We have all of Jane's guides. We have references. We have people within military organizations, within law enforcement, within all sorts of levels of government.
Put your body almost straight up.
Who we use as contacts that we talk to and say, how is this really going to happen?
You're going to execute a hostage rescue into these rooms.
Is this kind of a situation actually going to occur in the real world?
You're going to have to take scientists and radioactives, exfiltrate back out.
Is this how you would actually go about this type of an engagement?
It gave us experiences that we'd never had. We went down to a H&K training facility. We were able to actually shoot MP5s, and they ran us through kill houses and threw us to the ground and, you know, showed us how they would treat hostages if they had to subdue them and take them out, or how they would treat terrorists if they surrendered and then they would have to apprehend them, and showed us correct techniques.
And of course, that's one of the important reasons why it was great to have Tom Clancy. It's cool to have him on board because he has those contacts and he has that knowledge.
Rainbow Six is created at the same time as the book it's based upon.
In our history, We have created products that have occurred after the books have been written, and this is a case where the concept was co-created and the game was really the leading edge. The book followed along nicely in parallel, and then at a certain point, they both became unique within themselves.
Armed with a clear goal and hardened with real-world counter-terrorism training, work on Rainbow Six shifts into high gear.
We were all really excited about it because it was our first big game, first big experience, and so we were looking forward to it.
The majority of staff was working on that product.
We were putting in about 60 to 80 hours a week for about 6 to 8 months, so working through weekends and holidays and things like that.
Really, we learned a lot about how to make games because that product was an incredible stress and burden on the company to get it done.
In 1998, Red Storm releases Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. The novel is released weeks later. Both are a success. Sales of the Rainbow Six game helped the company reach $16 million in revenue that year.
Your mission is to disarm all explosive devices and neutralize the aggressors.
At first, it was staggering.
In position.
The reviews and whatnot that came in were generally very, very good.
Contact.
They knocked us in the areas that we were expecting to get knocked on because we were new. We didn't have a new high-speed engine. But a lot of people loved the gameplay, and they loved the tactical problem-solving that you had to do. So it was very exciting.
In position.
And very rewarding.
Among first-person shooters, which tended to be set on alien worlds or in haunted houses or in crazy dungeons, this game was set in the real world.
Alpha, go.
You were fighting real enemies that real people can expect to face.
Man down, man down. Need some backup now.
And there was an element of authenticity to that no other game had really even attempted to do. It succeeded brilliantly in rendering that real environment.
Bravo, go.
That was what was different about Rainbow Six. That's what it was unique. It really felt like a real tactical situation as opposed to running away from an alien carnivore.
Bomb neutralized.
Not only is Clancy pleased with the results, but so are the people that he writes about in his books.
We had a lot of SWAT people, a lot of military people playing our game and giving us feedback, sending us emails.
Under fire. Tango down. Man down, man down.
That was sort of affirmation and confirmation that we had done a very good job of representing those forces well.
Tango down.
Rainbow Six creates an entirely new subgenre, squad-based tactical shooters. Development of an expansion pack called Eagle Watch and a full sequel to Rainbow Six begins right away.
We decided to launch additional material in forms of mission packs, and that actually created a wonderful cycle for the company where we offset full production of large-scale games against producing some of the additional mission pack materials.
And then we had basically 9 months to get a sequel out to a hit game. That's not a very big period of time in gaming standards. So we had a very robust feature set that we were trying to put in to make sure that we stayed loyal to the fans, but also to ourselves.
The name of their first sequel is Rogue Spear.
So now we could push for that stuff to get into Rogue Spear. And everybody was so very passionate about it and very excited about it.
Escorting hostage.
In September 1999, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Rogue Spear is released and becomes another instant hit. Red Storm's revenues for that year hit $60 million.
Rogue Spear was a chance to really sort of flex and really try to experiment and do some new stuff.
Buoyed by their success, Red Storm decides to try something new, but the results will be just shy of disastrous.
Mission failure. A hostage was killed.
Come with me.
Right behind you.
Escorting precious cargo.
After the release of Rogue Spear in 1999,
Am I safe now? Escorting
Red Storm tries to break away from the first-person shooter genre it's known for.
We've had a few other types of games that haven't been these major brands. Some of them have been other Clancy-style games where they were attached to a series of his books. There were Shadow Watch and Ruthless.com.
But the results are disappointing.
You want them all to be great, but sometimes they're not going to work well. And we're just lucky that we've had some good successes to counterbalance the ones that haven't done so well, but we're still proud of them because we know that the people really put their heart and soul into them. They worked really, really hard, and unfortunately, sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Red Storm decides to return to what they do best. Realistic tactical shooters.
They really found what they did well, which was the tactical shooters, and they made a mint on that.
In May 2000, the company is acquired by French publisher Ubisoft for $45 million. With a new publisher and newfound resources, work begins on Red Storm's next big game, but it isn't part of the Rainbow Six series.
We wanted to diversify a little bit. We wanted to make sure that we had other things that we could rely on, and make sure that we were creating and we could do different things.
Starting from crouch.
Ghost Recon takes the gameplay style of Rainbow Six.
Let's go outdoors, let's go military.
Instead of being part of a counter-terrorist team, the game puts you in the boots of an elite special forces unit in the Army.
We really tried to take that whole concept of squad, military-oriented, and to really just sort of, a good analogy, sort of take the safety off. Because you had to be very careful in Rainbow Six and Rogue Spear of making sure you were only engaging terrorists and that you weren't hitting hostages and whatnot. Well, with Ghost Recon, it's more of a military assault.
Ghost was a nice change for us because we wanted to see what we could do in the same type of play space, but we wanted a little bit more room. We wanted the ability to go into some different settings and some different type of play experiences that we did not have when producing the Rainbow style of games.
Once again, the Red Storm team does some intense research to make sure they get the details right.
We took some trips down to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to check out their Land Warrior system. So we had some contacts there, and they were showing us some of the latest technology. So we looked to try to include some of that philosophy into the design with the command map and giving orders on the fly. So we were looking for ways to take the planning out of this pre-action experience and pull it into the action so that it was more of a definite cause and effect relationship between what the engagements were and what you needed to do.
Seems quiet enough. Too quiet.
Producing something like Ghost Recon, you might say it was a hard product. It had the largest staff working on it. It was our first major product after the acquisition. We really want this to be good.
We have one of our artists who worked on Ghost Recon. He has full military tac gear, and he runs around outside with a fake airsoft gun just because he wants to know how the arms move when he has full gear on, because the mocap that we get, we don't usually put people in full gear. So he wants it to be that realistic. He wants to know what it feels like so that he could adequately model the character motions.
In 2001, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon is released. Once again, a game from Red Storm is showered with praise, including a Game of the Year award from PC Gamer magazine, and sales reaching 1.8 million units.
It's a tremendously good feeling when you ship something and you get awards of praise from your peers or from magazines. Even the simple tip of the hat on someone's personal website, they're all equal in praise. There's someone saying they enjoyed your game.
Meanwhile, the Rainbow Six series continues without Red Storm.
We really wanted to invest the time we needed into Ghost Recon, but we also didn't want to walk away from our Rainbow franchise.
You know, it's your baby. You brought it up, you raised it, you were there from the very beginning, and then it's sort of like sending it out into the world to get somebody else.
Alpha, go, go, go!
After the acquisition, it was perfect for us to go up to Montreal and say, look, you know, this is what the next version should be like, but we can't do this now. We can't do this in-house. So can any of your teams do this? That's the start of a collaboration that has finished now with GMing of Ravenshield, Rainbow Six 3.
The reins to the Rainbow Six franchise are taken by Ubisoft Montreal, although the transfer goes smoothly.
At times you sort of see things and you're like, oh wait, is that right? And then other times you see things and you go, wait, that's actually wrong, let me show you what's correct, you know, and so you need to shift this over here. And so there were times where they actually did some stuff that was very innovative that we were excited to see, especially the on-the-fly commands window where you can just point to a door and tell people,
open door. Yes, sir.
It was like, excellent, that's a great innovation. The franchise needed that.
Ubisoft Montreal releases Rainbow Six Raven Shield in 2003. Meanwhile, Red Storm looks to the future, and the Clancy brand continues to expand with games like Splinter Cell.
We continue enjoying to make these style games. There's always some features that you weren't able to get into the last version, and I think that's what drives most of us to wanting to keep going and going with the same type of game, is that there's more that we can do with this.
You're not supposed to be here.
There's more variations, and we just want to keep going.
Today, Rainbow Six has sold 7 million copies worldwide, and its legacy continues to be felt by the gaming world.
They've been a very big influence. That really impacted with gamers this sort of new take on real environments and real tactics and real enemies. And that all goes back to Red Storm and the gamble they took on Rainbow Six.
Let's get back in one piece.